go ahead and get started. Just real quick, my name is Joseph Telesk. I'll be moderating the panel today. What I do is I'm the executive director of Guardians Mental Health. We are a nonprofit focused on spreading mental health awareness throughout the gaming space and also boosting accessibility to meaningful resources in safe and inclusive atmospheres. And right now I'd like to take a few minutes and have the rest of our incredible panelists, introduce themselves and talk about, the work they do with the great organizations that they're a part of. Justin.
All right. Like I said, my name's, there we go. Like I said, my name's Justin. I'm an art therapist, and so I work with Guardians Mental Health as part of their development team to kind of work on putting together the mental health kits. So part of my goal is to provide therapeutic art exercises as part of that for mindfulness, calming down stress, things like that. So I'm pretty new, so I just hopped on with their most recent kit with the esports kit. So yeah.
I'm Zach. I'm with Able Gamers. I'm a peer counselor. My main job is to meet with players one-on-one throughout the country that have disabilities and figure out what assistive technology can work for them in order to play video games.
Beautiful. I'm Loie. I'm with To Write Love on Her Arms. I am a streamer coordinator. So I meet with streamers that like to fundraise for Taloha. Taloha exists to provide hope and help to folks struggling with anything under that mental health umbrella. We provide resources and just really destigmatize mental health.
And I'm Katie Briggs. I'm the president of LandFest. LandFest has been in the gaming ecosystem for 21 years. Our mission is to build healthy communities through gaming. And so, in essence, we believe that having fun is really vital to someone's mental health. And so that's our core value. How do we have fun and how do we create fun? And of course, once we're having fun, then we want to build safe, inclusive places for people to come together and have fun. And then we like to play it forward for our communities and give back to our communities. So that's what we've been doing for 21 years.
That's amazing. I gush about everything that everybody here does with their organizations. Everybody has such an amazing positive impact throughout the entire gaming space and for the community, and it's amazing the work that everybody does, and I can't thank you all enough for what you do and what your organizations and everybody does collectively. It's really making positive changes and everything for everyone's well-being. I probably said this to you all week, weekend long, but I'm gonna keep doing it. I love all of you and what you all do. So we're gonna keep on moving around. I might seem a little nervous, but I am. That's normal. But
Not
yeah. I'd like to go ahead and introduce our topic now. But first, I'd just like to share just a brief little statistic that I found that was cited by Aetna, and that is 95% of us say mental health is important, yet only 26% prioritize it, and that is a huge difference right there. A lot of people agree that mental health is important. This is something that is, everyone should really prioritize in their day-to-day. But so little can actually do that or achieve that through self-care and other means. Working to prioritize our mental health really allows for building more positive life experiences and strengthening our resiliency. Life often presents us with difficult circumstances, and having that resiliency allows us to bounce back and live in a way that creates more joy and helps us to achieve our goals. So today's topic, as you saw outside in the program, is on prioritizing mental health in gaming. Guardians Mental Health saw a great need for the continued work of providing access to mental health resources and tools like the ones that we provide through our mental health kit program. And our mental health kit program, just real quick, is a blend of evidence-based printed resources and sensory items curated by clinicians and mental health professionals working on our team and with us to essentially provide individuals all the tools and resources to create their own self-care toolkits. So Justin, would you go into a little bit about your part, that you've had with the recent kits that we've done?
Yeah. So, like I said, I am an art therapist, so I provided different therapeutic art kind of interventions, kind of to focus on mitigating stress. So, for example, the three exercises I included were mandala drawing to focus on breath, kind of you're going in and out, kind of focusing inwards. Neurographic drawing to kind of just start letting out some stress, letting things kind of flow, and then visual journaling. Sorry. A lot of times when we feel super stressed, super depressed, whatever, it's really easy to get into that you can't see the forest for the trees thing. It never gets better, it never feels better. I'm always feeling this way, and so by doing a visual journaling, which you kind of color code your days, like I felt happy today, I felt sad today, you can start looking out over a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, however long you really want to do it, and start noticing, okay, I actually do have some good days in here. I have some days that are not too bad over here. So it can really help you kind of like get perspective on it. So including those three is just kind of a way to be part of a sport, especially with esports. We know it can be very competitive, very high stress, so just kind of some stuff that really helped. I wanted to focus on things that could help really like lower a lot of those symptoms. So yeah.
That's great. So to really continue on that, Zach, I want to ask you and everybody else to explain a little bit like what you do at your organization for helping others with supporting mental health in the community.
Yeah, so our main goal at Able Gamers is to combat social isolation for people with disabilities and also foster inclusive communities for those people with disabilities as well. How we do that is through play, and by play I mean video games obviously. So people with disabilities, especially people with severe physical disabilities, probably don't leave their house as often as the rest of us do. So they're missing on that social interaction piece. By providing them with equipment that they can use to play video games just like everybody else, they can make friends online, they can join a community online, Discord communities. We're actually starting an Able Gamers Discord community here pretty soon, next year. And we're actually rolling into cities where we have partnerships like Atlanta, Kansas City, and Cincinnati next year to start Able Gamers communities in those cities for players with disabilities. So our main goal is to combat social isolation through play, and that's where my peer counseling process comes into play. We also have our community and inclusion team here, Vinny, sitting right there. He's the one behind, moving into the cities and coming to Dreamhack and going to other conventions and things like that. So
That's awesome. That's fantastic. And thank you too.
That's awesome. So To Write Love exists to, like I said, provide hope and help to those who are struggling with those mental health, anything under that mental health umbrella. And that doesn't stop just anywhere in life. It bleeds kind of into anything. So that we definitely see a large portion of folks in the gaming community that game with each other that might not have the opportunity to talk about those things. So we really like to provide awareness and education. We want people to be empowered to navigate their own mental health journey and understand mental health. And community support, just like Able Gamers, it's so important to have people around you. We like to say that people need other people, and especially in gaming, I know we all understand that that's our third place to be and to have comfortability when you're not at home or when you're not at work. You have that third place, and it is so important to have that community rallying behind you and to let you know that you're not alone going through that. A big thing to prioritize mental health is going to be access to resources. So we want to make sure that resources are available to those that are seeking help in whatever way. And by doing that, I think the first step is to destigmatize. We really love to open conversations up around mental health, because really that's the first step. I know when it comes to my own personal journey, talking about it was the hardest thing, because you really have to say, you tell yourself it's not that bad, no one else will really understand, and they're gonna think all these things about me, and that's just absolutely not true. So really starting that mental health conversation of you are valid in what you feel and you are not alone is super important.
Absolutely. Can't agree more. Love the work you do. Also, you have an amazing app as well too. We suggest it to people all the time too. It's accessible on all devices. I would suggest, checking it out. There's a lot of great tools and tips and daily check-ins and stuff with it, so.
Yeah, I was just listening to all of these wonderful panelists and thinking about what folks were saying. And Able Gamers, I love the fact our core value is also around play, right? And so for folks who are wondering about, often people are like, oh, you're just playing around. When I talk with people and educate adults and educate non-gamers, they're always like, well, you guys are just playing, or it's for the kids. Oh, you do that for the kids. And I laughed because my average age of attendees is 38. It's 38 years old, and how important play is to make us a healthy person. And so when I read that on your website, I was like going, yes, we align. In the different structures of life, if you think about just people all around the world, the one thing that unites us is play. I was watching the Olympics just the other year, and they had that exact same motto up there, united through play, whether it was traditional sports. Do you guys remember that?
No, I did.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like going, oh my gosh, the Olympics is finally getting it. They understand it's about play. But they focus on traditional sports, right? Which is not inclusive. That's the part where I thought, oh, that's the miss. And that's where gaming really comes in, because gaming doesn't care. We don't care about disabilities. We don't care about gender. We don't care about age. We don't care about race or religion. Everybody can come and play together, and that's the really fantastic part about the gaming platform overall. So we take fun, we have these great fun opportunities, we come together, we play together, and we build bridges with one another. And what you were saying earlier, Louie, about being together and isolation. Because the other thing I get from folks all the time is, oh, well, can't you just play online together? And it's like, yeah, you can play online together, but what really happens in mental health and what really happens with folks is this communication. The energies that we share with one another, the body language of me saying, hey, I'm here with you and I get you and I see you. So we take these moments where we can be together in those discords and online. During COVID, LANFest, we held the first online LAN party called a WAN. But I found in the 2 years, my chapters, my attendees were like, we don't want to do this anymore. We miss people. And my attendees are all gamers. They're people who, at the beginning of COVID, they're like, COVID is it. This is like ideal. But then a year and a half into COVID, they're like, we don't want to do online anymore. We miss people. And so then you get people together and magic happens. So yeah, we can play against one another online, but it's the in-person events that happen. At our events, when we have people there, they're playing. I think we were doing an analysis, and over 48% of the time was not in front of the computer. It was sitting next to one another, talking about the computer games, but it was that interaction of like, how is this happening? When people come to different LAN events, it's not like, oh, what do you do? What do you do? It's, what do you play? What do you play? So it's I think fun and community is so important for mental health, because it's the connections that bind us together.
You're absolutely right. And to just play off that, on our table, whenever we exhibit or have a table anywhere, we always have a ghost on our table. Kind of show like where we came from, gamers helping gamers. We came from the gaming community, is how we were founded. And you can always see somebody who can relate on that, where they don't come up to us and go, give me your spiel, what do you guys do? They see that and go, what's your class? And then starts that connection. And I grew up with, and I don't know how many people can relate to this, with playing Halo 2 or anything like that. Like, you brought your console to a friend's house, and it was like another TV a block and a half away, and you played all day, all night, and that socialization, those connections are one, life-changing, and they also stick with you forever. Those are memories that are just seated, that you hold on to, and it's just that positive memory that just, as in the future, you look back, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, and you remember very fondly of those times. Like, I remember we stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning playing Halo 2, or,
we got the new Silent Hill and we didn't fall asleep until we beat the game because we were too scared to death to not finish it. But also gaming has a real stigma on it around the world, and that really loops us into another question that I want to really dive into is gaming has had a rough time as well with its reputation in the public eye for a long time, such as having an addictive or violent qualities highlighted by the media. You see gaming addiction and things like that highlighted all over the place. Since this panel is all about some of the positives of gaming, how do we help make that more apparent to everyone, and especially those with little or less experience with gaming as a whole? Justin, do you feel comfortable leading us into that?
Okay,
I don't want to throw you on
That's
the
all right,
box.
I got it. Yeah, so we all know that gaming has had, a bit of a negative kind of reputation and things like that. In my own sessions with clients, I actually encourage video games as a play. One of the things that, I really value about games, and this can be tabletop games, this can be, any type of things like that, it doesn't have to just be computer, online, video games, is that these all provide a safe space for you to experience feelings, to express your story. You can put down what you're dealing with for a limited time and say, I'm not dealing with this right now. I am a cool elf ranger, and I am doing this thing, and I am, getting gold and loot and all these things, and I can put these things behind me for a bit. And so we see that there is we've talked about a lot of different things with panelists of community is a big thing. In therapy with individual clients, the research shows that the biggest force of change is the therapeutic relationship, right? So we understand that community is huge for all of us. And so in kind of taking a second to say, I can put this thing behind me and I can do whatever, It also unites us in a lot of different ways, which I could go on about, and I'll save her from that spiel. But yeah, and so I think that even games that are considered violent, it can be just kind of hey, this is a competitive thing. This is something I can do for fun. And so kind of expressing that to people outside of that, even clients who are not gamers, I'm like, do you have a Switch? And they're like, yeah, somebody bought me one, but I'm playing. I'm like, great, I have a list of games for you to try and to play. If you want to feel things, here's this one. If you want to do this, here's this one. If you want fun cozy, here's this one. And so I've kind of been compiling that list for my own clients. And so it helps kind of give them a space to say, I can do something different for just a little bit. So hopefully that answered the question. I think you did. Okay, cool. Your turn.
Great job. I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of what Justin just said. Not all games are violent. I'm sure Stardew Valley and Minecraft.
Haley plays Survivor,
Haley's
Survival
one.
in Minecraft, those zombies.
Even the new Lego Fortnite is very calm because you're building a village. You can obviously go out and fight monsters and stuff, but if you want to just sit by the campfire, take a nap in your bed, and just sit there and enjoy the sound of the rain. Personal experience for me, I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. I've spent my whole life there. I'm 30 years old. I just moved to DC with my fiance in April. And how I keep in touch with my siblings, my friends back home that I have never lived away from is by playing video games. I'm not much of a texter, talk on the phone type person, but somebody's like, hey, you want to hop on Fortnite for a couple hours? I'm like, yeah, let's catch up. One of my best friends since we were 14, he and I play video games probably 5 hours a week, and that's how we keep in touch. He's awful at texting too, so yeah, I just think there's a game out there for everybody, and they're not all violent, they're not all shoot 'em up. I'll have players that come to me and they're like, I want something that's a little bit slower. I'm like, here's a list. It's probably could be similar to the list of what you have with the people that you work with too, so.
Awesome. I'll stay on the train of talking about video games and talking about how they bring us to people. So maybe we all haven't experienced it, but The Last of Us.
Yes.
Kind of, there's some violence,
That's a little intense for time.
it's a little intense,
Yeah.
but it's a single player game. So you go through the story yourself, you experience everything yourself, but the story is so beautiful and you share that with people and you connect with people by, this story can be awful, it is heartbreaking, it's excruciating, but we can talk about it and we can talk about why we felt that way and we can talk about, what that means in that world and how it translates into other things. And I think that that is so important to talk about, even when it is maybe a violent game, and even when it does have things that are maybe not the most easily swallowed, I guess. It's difficult to talk about, but that kind of game brings you a beautiful story, and it helps you talk about it. So that, I think, is super important, to be able to sit down and talk about the games and sit down and experience them together. I am a huge cozy gamer as well. I love all the cozy games. I maybe am a little versatile. I can play pretty much anything, but I think, the cozy games are where it's at for me. So not all, just like Zach said, not all games are violent. They all don't require sweaty hands to play, but the ones that do, and the ones that do have the violence, it's important to talk about that as well.
And Joe, I was one of those negative people as a mom with 4 young children, right? So I had 4 young children, and I'm like, how do I help my children not become a gamer? I don't want them 30 years old living in the basement of my house, just doing nothing. And my background is in education and healthcare. So I've been a high school teacher for a while. I work in the healthcare industry. And so the first thing I started to do was, like most healthcare or most educators, is I started to educate myself. I was like, okay, let's go to panels. And so I started attending panels at PAX to ask those questions. How do I help my children not end up what the stereotype was in my mind? And through that education, I found that there's so many important things in video gaming, and that there's ways to help help your children move certain ways to get rid of that addictive quality, to give them positivity around that. And so it was a really good learning experience for me, and helped me actually accept the role as the president of LANFest, because I saw the positivity around that. And also become an advocate for gaming and how positive it is. And even to the point, I do a lot of education to non-gamers, and I have to tell you this story that's one of my favorite stories about a LAN we were doing up in Seattle. And we were at a Seattle home and garden show, because they asked us to come in and do something, so
cool.
non-traditional. And of course, the people attending this home and garden show, they're not gamers, they're gardeners. They're like, what, they're there to buy houses, or buy different parts of houses.
Lawnmower simulator.
Yeah,
Test
well,
that.
yeah, we had some things going. But the group of people who were here landing from our organization, they were Boeing engineers that work for the defense industry. Like, they were people in the healthcare industry. They were all of these tech people who love to game. And I had this mom come up to me, and literally she says, this, and she points, this is why there are shootings in the schools. And for me, I was like, hey, we have a great opportunity to discuss, right? Good discourse here. And so and she had her son with her, her 12-year-old son with her. And so we had this conversation. First my mind was blown, because the people that were in my space, I know them personally, and the sweetest, kindest people you'd ever meet. I'm like, I don't think I would ever see that person ever stomp on a flower, much less a shooting. So we had a great conversation around, I have 2 neurodivergent, of my 4 children, I have 2 that are neurodivergent. And we had a great opportunity to talk about the safety that my children felt coming to LAN events, right? This was the one place they were not bullied, because they shined, right? This was the place that they could come and they could be themselves, and they weren't ridiculed. And it wasn't just that they weren't ridiculed by peers, but adults accepted them, right? Again, as I said earlier, games don't care about ages. So my 4-year-old girl, who is on the spectrum, she was killing people in Team Fortress 2 that were 28 years old, So it gave her a sense of empowerment as well.
It's always the younger ones that just wreck you.
Yeah, cute little blonde girl.
Yeah.
But anyways, after this half-an-hour conversation with this parent, she made a sudden switch and then started making political statements that I agree with. And I was like, obviously we were able to have a good conversation around the positive aspects. And her son, by the time we left, was just beaming from ear to ear, because he was like, see, Mom, it's not a bad thing. There are positive things. And it also helped that we were raising money for the Seattle Food Bank at the same time, right? So we had $1,200 that we were raising and giving to a food bank. So I think that one of the most important things with helping share the positive aspects of gaming is to invite those people who have skepticism, like I did in the very beginning, and educate them. Come and see. And so that's one of the things that we work hard with also at LandFest is like, come in, come and see. I can't describe it to you. I can't describe the energy. I can't describe the community. I can't describe the wonderfulness of gaming and the gaming community. You have to experience it. And I feel like that helps with the positivity, as well as having panels like this with people who know, with the experts who know, who can give ourselves a platform to say, this is why it's important, this is why it's positive, this is how we can help you. And that's, I think, how part of the strategy on how do we change the negativity and the addictiveness that is seen as the stereotype in gaming. How do we help that turn that around and bring out the positivity of everything?
Absolutely, and there are more and more studies coming out just in the past couple of years that are pointing towards the positive, ways gaming can be utilized in so many different ways. And kind of on the same point, like I grew up, my father was a gamer. I'm 40, but I grew up through the 90s, Sega Genesis and all that. But my father gamed the entire time. I remember playing Atari, with my father, but it became like a bonding time with my family. And so much so, we had 4 computers with networked in the house. This is like before internet really kicked off and like online gaming was a thing. And even when it became a thing, it was more difficult to actually get on the internet to play with other people. But we had these, it was such a great positive bonding experience, playing, with me, my brother, my best friend from down the street, and my father all playing. He would wreck all of us all together. We'd be playing like the original like Warcraft and everything, where you got to build up, your villages and everything like that. And he would mess with us as we were doing it, and it just became such a fond memory and everything. And I know a lot of people can relate looking back into their own personal experiences and see positive things that have come from playing video games and utilizing it in like positive ways, as in like temporary escapes too. Don't get me wrong, like gaming for 14 hours straight is not healthy, but in moderation, having that self-awareness and utilizing it as like a part of your own like self-care toolkit. And that's how I like to describe it to people, because that's how I utilize it myself. I use it after a busy day, it's whatever things I went through for the day and this and that. I know that I can turn on my computer or this and that, and I can unplug for a short while and kind of relax and escape into this world for a little bit and have fun, whether it be gardening and this and that. And there are different games, for everyone. Somebody might feel really comfortable playing like a loot and shoot game where they don't really do the Stardew Valley. I am terrible. It's not called Animal Planet. What is it?
Animal Crossing?
Yeah, there it is. Oh, but yeah, that is so many people's jams right there. And I could never, I've always played like shooter games and this and that, and that's where I'm comfortable, and I see the positive side of that, and especially after Halo 2, and I keep going back to it because I really feel that was like a turning point for like online gaming. Yeah. And a lot of negative things developed with it as well, but so much positive that you were able, like Zach was saying, you were able to connect with people from around the entire world. Friends, like my brother, I never see my brother, but I can jump on and play a game with him. My best friend, when he's on travel and this and that, we still get on Tuesday nights and do strikes or something together. And people that I've never met a day in my life, I met through LFG groups and stuff like that, and just built a relationship with them and that's how we got started at Guardians Mental Health, is just finding each other just naturally through play, and then being together for 4 years, playing every week, and then picking up verbal cues, and one of us wasn't doing well and doing check-ins, and you build those relationships, and you see on social media every so often people with big smiles on their faces and arms around each other that have known each other and know so much about each other for 10 years, and this is the first time that they met each other in person. And you see just the joy and how much further the bonding between them has, grown. And I've seen that at conventions and shows, and that's why these events are so wonderful. And what Lanefest does is so wonderful because it's bringing people together. It really fosters community, and I just can't get over how much good can come from gaming, especially for the socialization and then people who really feel separated and isolated. But when they game, they're in their safe space. And that's really like a really fantastic time to be able to reach somebody, especially behind a gamer tag. With being online these days through Discord and this and that, people feel a little bit more of the pressure off their shoulders where they can talk about what's bothering them because they're not looking at this person eye to eye. They're behind their screen name, they have that anonymity, and they, doing a check-in, how are you doing today? Where typically they'd be like, I'm all right.
I'm fine.
Where they're, I'm
Doing
fine.
good.
Yeah, I'm doing good. That you build this relationship with them, and they're like, I had this and that happened today, and this and that. Now they're opening up, and they're starting that mental health journey and that bonding and that trust with other people online. So there's so many great ways that it can be used, and I'm so happy to see that more and more people are being swayed from the, this causes so much, terrible things and violence and everything, this negative stigma, and now you're starting to see all these large studies and proof and evidence coming out that that's not the case. 99.6% of the time, these are things that's not a real number. I'm just, don't quote me on that, please. But I'm sure it's a pretty large stat. It's more of a positive thing. And it's a common thing that many people, like you were saying, it's a common ground that everybody shares a passion for. It might not be the same, and you might not be my like a Guardian Destiny 2 with me that I've just been in since the very beginning, but there is a common ground for everyone, and there is something for everyone. Just like there is someone to talk to or someone to listen to for everyone. You might not find that person immediately, like an LFG group. Like you might not find that person that can bring you through a dungeon or a raid or something like this, an activity, first time every time, but 2 or 3 in, you're gonna have that connection with somebody, and it's gonna be an amazing experience, and you're gonna bond, and it's an incredible thing. I'm a talker. I will literally talk. I apologize. I have apologized to everybody up here multiple times in the past. But I want to move forward as well and kind of highlight different parts of things. Zach, I really want to I'm going to jump over. I'm sorry. Zach.
I wasn't pulling away, I was stretching.
Sorry. Okay. I'm getting out of the way. No, I think another real interesting question would be how disability can affect one's mental health, and what gaming is doing to overcome that to be inclusive.
Yeah, so a little bit of background on me. I was a special ed teacher for 5 years before I started working with able gamers. I worked with adults with disabilities. I would say 90% of the students I had autism, and I also got to work in schools when I was going through school. So I was licensed K through 12. Whether you're born with a disability or it happens to you later in life, if you're a kid and you go to school and you receive special ed services, kids can be pretty ruthless sometimes. That's gotta take a toll, especially on a young child's mind, if they're constantly being excluded or called names or just treated poorly. Another example I have is a player that I just recently worked with. He's a streamer. His name's Aiden Rudy, if you want to check him out. He's really cool. He said after he started developing this disease, he started seeing his friends less and less, and his friend group got smaller and smaller. So I helped him get some equipment. He's streaming again. He reached out to me the other day. I actually poked in on one of his streams the other night, and he's like, the people that come into my stream are my people now. You know, these people come in to watch me game because they want to see me game. This is my community. I was like, dude, that's awesome. I think, you know, community, huge with gaming. And we've been talking about that over and over. And I said earlier, people with disabilities, they probably don't leave their house very often. So they can hop on and play video games. They don't even have to disclose that they have a disability to the people that they're playing with unless they want to. So it just kind of gives them that sense of freedom to be who they want to be, do what they want to do. I mean, if you use a wheelchair, you probably don't drive a car. You can drive a car on video games, play basketball. You can, like you said, be an elf and go hunt for gold and take down monsters and do whatever you want. So I think just, you know, that social piece is huge. The community piece is huge, and I think video games does a great job at providing that for not just people with disabilities, but people in general. So.
Joe, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So do you see the mental health, I mean, have you seen that mental health change in that specific person you were talking about? Like, can you describe that mental health change that you saw? Because obviously you didn't experience it through his eyes, but through your eyes, what did you see?
Yeah, so I would consider him a pretty good buddy now.
Yeah.
We chat on Discord all the time. We've had a lot of virtual meetings as well, just as part of my role at Able Gamers. But he messaged me the other night after I checked out the stream, and he was like, dude, not only did you just help me start gaming again, he's like, but I was in a dark spot before I, reached out to Able Gamers. And we were able to kind of talk about that with each other, because like I said, I moved from Indy to DC. I was nervous. I was scared. I didn't know what I was going to do for work. I didn't know how I was going to start making money. And I shared that with him too. And I was like, honestly, dude, I think we kind of helped each other, through this process to kind of, I feel good when I'm able to help people. I never got into this work for the money. I always just wanted to help people. And he was like, you kind of pulled me out of a dark spot. And I was like, dude, to be honest, you kind of pulled me out of a dark spot too.
So it's a 2-for-1.
Yeah, it's pretty mutual. I get to see it a lot with veterans that we work with too, disabled veterans who just want to play video games with their younger kids. And they're like, thank you. Like I'm able to game with my kids, with my family, kind of like you said, gaming with your family when you were younger and how important it is. So, yeah.
Lloyd, would you like to jump in on this a little bit?
So I think you touched on a lot of folks that when you were a special education teacher, had autism and kind of the more hidden disabilities. And I think that those disabilities can really affect your mental health as well. And a lot of us have touched on it already, but having those spaces where you're able to just be who you are, you're able to express whatever you're feeling, is really super important. And at Taloha, we're always very open about fostering those mental health conversations. So at any moment where someone can be vulnerable and someone can say, I might not be doing well, is super important, and those conversations matter. So even with the more hidden disabilities that we see a lot on our end at Taloha, just being in a space, like I said, where you can be yourself and have that community behind you is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to go into a personal experience. My first interaction with Taloha was actually at Vans Warped Tour.
Yeah.
And
I just said that.
yeah. Actually, James, I sent him a picture of my daughter. I got her a hoodie at it because I've been to several of them, but this one specifically, like downpoured, and I didn't know who Taloha was, and I got trapped in their tent because it was just a torrential downpour. And I'm like, this is incredible. And it's the same thing as, with music. Music brings people together as well. And just like gaming and just those common interests and everything. And I just wanted to
No, I love it. We like to meet people where they're at,
Right,
and it's not always a situation where someone wants to feel comfortable with saying, I need help. You know, it's not always going to be a situation where someone's looking for it. But if we are at music events, if we're at schools, if we're at Dreamhack, we're coming to you and we're letting you know that healing is possible and help is out there.
Not alone.
Yeah.
And how many people actually feel comfortable saying, I need help, right?
I know, yeah, I understand that's what we're working hard against. Where we want people to be able to say, I need help and I need support, and it's there.
That first step is always the hardest for everyone. But once you overcome that, it's a huge weight off and you really start your journey right there. And Justin, would you like to?
Oh yeah, I mean I can hop in on that.
Hop on.
Yeah, so I was thinking especially as these other organizations were talking, a lot of the things that we know that people with various physical disabilities, things like cannot experience isolation, experience lack of movement, can't, you know, if you're in a wheelchair, there's ways to drive a car, but you're probably not going everywhere all the time, right? And so it made me, as they were talking, it kind of made me think, also a personal story, but like, when COVID happened, when lockdown happened, everyone's scared to go outside your house, not even just like to the store, just like stepping outside where we didn't know anything. I lived alone at the time, and so I was like, wow, I was like, at first I was like, yeah, I can stay home and work, that's great. And I was like, I don't see anybody, it sucks, you know? And so as I kind of did it, I actually started going back through Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And so I kind of started taking that as like a way to explore an environment that I don't get to see, right? I was locked in my house. And, you know, I'm an artist, so I was like, I'm gonna do like a little exploration, like traveler's journal. So I would go and I'd find vistas and I would sketch them. And, you know, I'm very fortunate to have mobility, use my hands. I know not everyone is that fortunate, but that's all to say. I think that it made me think of how these different types of games, like we talked about, different genres can be beneficial. These adventure, you know, open world, you know, or even small world games can help you kind of experience things in a way that you may not be able to experience with limited mobility. And so, in another way that like I think it can be really beneficial to that momentary escape of I'm not stuck in my house. I'm in Hyrule. I'm walking, you know, these beautiful vistas. You know, these game creators go through so much to just make these things for us. And so I always try whenever I'm somewhere, I'm like, I want to find some good spots to just sit by a campfire and look and just so, yeah, so I think that in engaging with these things and being in a space that can kind of step outside of yourself, I think is a big proponent in the mental health field too.
I cried when you first come out of the cave.
Oh yeah.
I genuinely started tearing up because I grew up on Ocarina of Time on the 64.
Yeah.
So when I started playing that game and he walks outside, I was like,
Game has changed now.
this is awesome. I'm so happy right now, yeah.
The transition in gaming when N64 came out, with even Mario too, how the world was just explorable. It wasn't just a linear side scroll anymore, hit Baba Box, you know, Zelda like kind of walking up in like a grid and everything. It was just this massive like experience, and it was life changing. I'm telling you, it was great. Yeah. Yeah, like really with everything everybody talked. She said so many great points right there. I love that conversation. We've been doing a lot of work with trying to work with studios, because those experiences and everything with people playing, you know, online at home in their safe spaces, we're working with studios to make more resources accessible from in-game for the players while you're enjoying those experiences and everything. We're finding that it is definitely a positive, and it's been a positive reception. A lot of people have utilized having access to resources in game. That way they're having those experiences with each other and socializing, that they can also, you know, find somebody if they are feeling alone, if they are feeling down, that they can reach out for support and have those resources. And it really shows like studios and games like really do care about their players and their communities and everything. Katie, I want to ask, you know, jump down to you. I'm going to throw a football, you know, a pass down to you. But I know you've talked earlier about what
Lane Fest does for the community and everything, but what is Lane Fest doing to, for helping others with supporting mental health in the community?
Yeah, so one of the things that we do specifically is all of the work that is, all the research, all of the work that these great organizations do, we invite and activate on those ideas as well. And so, again, I come from a healthcare background around, I've been in healthcare for 20 years, and there's a big push in healthcare right now for health equity and social determinants of health. And health equity, for those who don't know, is basically how we create health that is equitable across everyone. And that's one of the things, again, as we talked earlier, gaming communities are equitable, right? People care what you game, right? Even, one of the charities that we supported at one of our events in Tacoma was Rainier Adaptive Sports, which was a wheelchair-specific basketball group. So they were able to come into our event. The other part is around the social determinants of health. In basically social determinants of health are what makes a person healthy. Those are your social determinants. And of that whole pie, the human pie, only 10% has to do with medical. Everything else, the other 90% has to do with your community that you're in, your education, your socioeconomic status. Those are 90% of what makes a person whole and healthy. And so when you look at that statistic, that 90% of what makes me a whole and healthy person have nothing to do with my doctor or with my medical sides. It has to do with my community, my mental health, my people I'm communicating with. That's kind of where we at Lanfest, we take that inside and we say, okay, let's create that safe and inclusive place. Let's make it a healthy place. And we want to do it through gaming as well. And so when we have around the country, we have about 21 chapters who host 3-day long events that are done by volunteers. So think of what's happening here in the BYOC, and just downsize it, make it grassroots and local, right? Make that local and say, okay, I know all of these people that I'm hanging out with, and I'm inviting more people into it. And then another hallmark that we do is we pay it forward. So then when we're healthy and happy, then we want to do good in our community, whether that's raising money for another charity, like we've raised money for several of these charities, or a food drive, or our blood drive, or a clothing drive, or offering STEM opportunities. So that's kind of where we focus, and it's kind of part of our strategy and mission going forward is building those communities, supporting those communities, helping them find resources that are more specialized, because we're not specialized like Tuala is, or Able Gamers, or Guardians. We're not specialized. We're more broad in that way. But we want to work with you guys because we know that what you bring to the community is so important. So that's kind of the direction Lanfest has been taking and has been doing for the last, like I said, 21 years overall. Just how do we, again, I always tell people our mission statement sounds kind of trite, but it's truly how do we build healthy communities through gaming? We just want to build it.
And I love that, and I know we were talking earlier this morning with you and your husband and sharing that. There are so many chapters. I did not realize there was 3 chapters in New York State. I'm from upstate New York. I'm in the hills, not in the city. But I didn't realize there were so many of them, and that, again, fosters so much community. And having people just be aware that, there are Lanfest parties, popping up in their state, in their communities, really, encourages people to take a part in it, be a part of it, go and socialize. Like you were saying earlier with, people playing games, like you saw that it wasn't measured as much as, people playing the games as talking about the games, having those conversations, those connections and stuff. And I can visualize a sheet pizza and soda and people just, community, coming together and sharing in this common interest of gaming. And it's just so special. And I know all of us can relate with walking through, down a street or in a mall or something and seeing somebody wearing a Zelda shirt and going, oh, did you play? And you can have a 40-minute conversation with the person about, this one, encounter and this and that. And there's a common ground that everybody can share.
Joe, I have to tell you, it's really funny that you say food, because one of the hallmarks, like when we first started at Land Fest, we always did an attendee feed. And the attendee feed, it was pizza, and people, it was just so amazing how people are like, I gotta get my slice of pizza. And it usually wasn't that good of pizza. But the whole thing was that they were eating together. And so like my Buffalo chapter, they do a donut and bagel feed, right? And so it's kind of a tradition. We game together and we eat together. And we talk together. So, because food is another unifier. We all need to eat, right? So food unifies as well.
I'm gonna grab some pizza after that.
Yeah.
This is making me hungry.
We had pizza last night. And
I
we forced Justin to decide what the
Yeah.
second pizza was gonna be. It was,
That's so wild. I had pizza last night, other people had pizza. I was like, oh, we're
It was
eating
night for pizza, I guess.
it was.
pizza night.
I thought.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can artistly like create the different pieces, right? Like there's therapy, art therapy,
Yeah,
and
there
that
you
pizza right there.
I think the greatest thing, you know, and when I visualize them, do like events and stuff, when they get the sheet pizza and it's cut into like 60 slices, and you get the two little squares, and it's like
Kindergarten pizza.
it's kindergarten pizza, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just that, you know, connection that I have subliminally that it's comforting to me, and it's something that I can, you know, finger food pick up and I get my piece of pepperoni on it. I don't know.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm gonna go on a tangent on it, but
People are hungry now.
they are. I'm gonna skip one. We're getting close to the end, but I really want to get to ask another question to everybody up here. If there was one thing you wanted everyone to take away from this panel, can you mention it?
Just pick one. Okay.
Just one, two. What would you like people to take away?
I think I would like people to take away that, you know, I think we've established pretty well that gaming connects and unites all of us, right? Like, I saw a cosplayer down the street that had a guardian, and I was like, flagging her down, I was like, wait, come back, you know, like, can I get a picture, you know, and it's because these things that are able to unify us, we can look, I mean, you go out in the hallway, you look at the Artist Alley, which I encourage everyone to go look at Artist Alley, support local artists, but, you know, you're like that, like, you know, because you understand these things, and it's almost a universal language, and so when we experience such intense isolation and we, you know, it's so many things are moving to less in person. I think that's like a, you know, kind of a side effect of the pandemic is those kinds of patterns remained of it's still really hard to connect with people, you know, it's still hard to make friends, it's still hard to do these things. But finding just different spaces that you can utilize gaming and utilize other ways to connect to, even if you're not connected with other people, you're finding a way to connect with the game and process and things like that. So yeah, no, that was a few more than one thing, so I apologize. Go ahead, Laura, keep talking.
I think one thing you guys should take away from this is that everybody just wants to feel included. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter what you look like, you deserve to be included in something, regardless of what it is. I live in DC, like I said earlier, I have to do the fundraising events for the government stuff in DC. I had this older woman, she had to be in her 80s. She came up to me, and usually older people will come up to my booth and be like, video games? She came up and she's like, this is awesome. And I was like, what? I wasn't expecting that. She's like, everybody just wants to be included, and everybody should be included, and that stuck with me. So, yeah, everybody should be included. Everybody wants to be included. So.
That's a really good one to take away. I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what Justin said. And, you know, in these communities where you're around a lot of people and you're playing games, just remember that you're not alone in what you're feeling, and that if you are feeling any type of way, you are able to talk to your community and really just lean on those around you.
And those are kind of my takeaway also for you all is there's a place for you. You belong, right? There's a place that everyone can come together and be together, and you're not alone. So find your peeps, find your community, find your herd, however you want to call it, but you belong. And a lot of times you can find that in gaming.
Yeah, great. Those are all great. I have nothing to add to it because I just agree with everything you all just said, but I really do want to thank all of you. I want to thank, you know, Justin, Zach, Chloe, Katie, so much for being a part of this panel and this discussion and conversation, but I really do want to do an extra shout out thank you to Katie for making this panel happen. It was kind of a little bit in the air, like it was gonna go a different direction, and Katie fought for this, and I cannot thank her enough for all the hard work and support she gives to all of us in making this conversation happen. I really can't thank you enough for it, and
Well, thank you to you too.
Yes,
You've been giving us thanks this whole time, but
I just ramble, you know, but no.
but what you guys are doing at GMA
Thank you very much.
is very important, so.
Yeah, appreciate it very much, and I look forward to all of us working together in the future with so many things. The more that we can do together, the bigger the impact we can have for people in the community in positive ways. I always felt that Guardians is not a one-stop shop. Nobody is. All of us working together in various different ways through working relationships, whether it's uplifting one another, if it's if it's the best resource for somebody for whatever they might be going through, guiding them to you at to get that great next step support or whatever it may be is pivotal. And whenever we can all collaborate on something together, it really, really has an incredible impact for people in great ways, especially in the communities that we work in. But again, thank you all for sharing on this topic, and really, we got a couple minutes, so real quick, just give a shout out to your socials and where people can find you and more on your org and everything. And this is just a shameless plug, so everybody's can find more about everybody. Justin, go ahead and talk.
Well, I mean, Guardians Mental Health, obviously, you find them on what all I've searched. Is it where or X?
Oh, we're
rather.
on every
all
social.
things. Okay, yeah. So look for that. If you want to find my stuff specifically, Constellations Mental Health. I'm still getting it off the ground, so don't look and see like 6 posts and be like, ugh, still working on getting it off the ground, but working on looking at a lot of different intersections of nerd and gaming and mental health and things like that is kind of my direction I go with a lot of people. So, and you can learn more about art therapy, cool, because it's pretty new, so yeah.
Love it.
ablegamers.org. Check it out. We have social media as well. I'm not a huge social media person. Personally, I have a LinkedIn account. I still have Facebook.
It's a great LinkedIn account. Yeah, check it out.
I think I'm gonna hop on X or Twitter or whatever it's called now, because it's great for networking opportunities. But yeah, ablegamers.org. Check it out. Watch some of our videos. See what we're about.
Yes.
Beautiful. So to Write Love on Her Arms, it's actually Twolohha, so Twloha. I know what I'm talking about. Amber's like, no, that's not it.
Coach,
You try, it's a tongue twister. So Twolohha.com, and there you can find our Find Help tool, which can link you to local resources in your area with a keyword.
Great.
I'd say, first of all, if you haven't been to the room next door, C107, all of us are in there. And you can talk more one-on-one if you have questions specifically around what each person does. Please go check them out. We're trying to do a lot of fun stuff in there as well, raise money for everybody so we can all share together. So go check out room 107, it's right next door. And then for LandFest, we're just landfest.com. We've been around, like I said, 21 years. I think we're LandFest Games. My social media people keep changing because I'm old and they're young and they have good ideas. And that's great, but I don't get it all. So anyways, landfest.com is where our website is.
Thank you.
And really, yes, please, come next door. If you haven't checked out the Charity Corner, please do come over. This is such a large topic. We obviously couldn't touch on absolutely everything. But thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully we have another conversation on this incredibly important topic in the near future. If you have any other questions, or if you want to go into, we got 30 seconds, so there's no Q&As, but if you have any other questions or anything you want to dive into, please visit us next door. We all have great resources and other things you can pick up from us, take with you, and thank you again for being a part of this. Enjoy the rest of your Dreamhack, and
See you
I
then.
hope we play video games together here soon, all of us.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.